He remembers the death of the loan sharks and screams that he doesn't want to die like that. The boy says that he was scared and asks her to get out of the water, still in panic. But Yoonhae reveals that she has always wanted to receive something from him and asks if he will give it. Before he can answer, the mermaid kisses him, leaving him completely stunned. She looks at him and touches his face with an unreadable expression in her eyes. With a satisfied smile, she asks if it was good, and he feels strange. He pulls away and thinks that something isn't right, feeling that something is wrong. The boy goes to the kitchen and shivers, thinking that he kissed a mermaid. He wonders why she sees him as more than a friend. At that moment, he drops the kettle and decides not to fill the bathtub the next day. But when he turns around, he sees Yoonhae on the floor. She appeared in the puddle of water. She says that they need to meet, and right after that she disappears again. The refrigerator starts beeping because it's open, but Hae is confused, wondering why she came again. He trembles, feeling that the situation is worse than before and that something is very wrong. The next day at school, his friend approaches him to finally talk. He complains that apologizing is very embarrassing, but that everyone insisted he do it. The friend apologizes for having crossed the line, and the protagonist accepts the apology. He remembers Yoonhae's words and wonders why they keep coming to his mind. The protagonist thanks him, and the two finally make peace, leaving the friend confused. Suddenly, the rest of the group shows up, celebrating that the two made up. He calls the pink-haired girl Solbi to talk outside the classroom. The girl gets all excited and says yes, accepting the invitation immediately. He knows that this is wrong, but he can't let it affect his daily life. The boy thinks that, either way, he needs to protect himself above all else. He calls Solbi and says that he doesn't know how to say what he needs to say. The girl encourages him, telling him to say what he wants without fear, with a smile. He asks if she has any clothes she doesn't need anymore because his sister has grown up. The boy explains that he wanted to buy new clothes for her but doesn't have any money. He apologizes for asking suddenly, but the girl seems a little disappointed. The scene cuts to her room, where her friends ask why she would give him the clothes. They question why he wanted to talk in private and hint that he has a crush on her. The girl freaks out and says that's not even half of what actually happened. The next day he shows up with a bunch of clothes, and she says that there's much more. But the girl says that she has one condition for giving him the clothes, leaving him surprised. She invites him to go to the beach with the group and says she'll only give the clothes if he goes. He thinks for a moment and ends up agreeing to the condition she set. The friends celebrate, saying that this is her chance to finally win him over. They already start talking about marriage, and the girl laughs, saying they're going too far. Back in the bathroom, Yoonhae tries on one of the dresses and asks what he thinks. He says that it looks good on her and tries to seem as natural as possible in front of her. The boy thinks that he needs to please her so she won't act so controlling. The mermaid says that she prefers the old shirt because it was the first gift he gave her. He says that the shirt is too small and that this dress is also a gift from him to her. He wonders if she thinks the dress was a gift from someone else. The mermaid calls him to get in the water again and see the ocean once more, but he refuses, saying that it was too frightening last time and that he can't go in. Yoonhae confronts him, saying that's not what he said before, leaving him confused. She reveals that she heard him telling the girl that he would go to the beach with her in the summer. The scene shows the pink-haired girl inviting him to go to the beach with the group. Shocked, he asks how she saw that, and wonders if she's been watching him at school. She explains that water is everywhere, and that she can see everything through it. The mermaid says that she needed the clothes and orders him to get into the water right now. He realizes that he has no choice but to obey, and that he can't go back anymore. Yoonhae makes sure to show him the reality they are living in now. Suddenly the boy starts coughing, and the mermaid stares at him with an empty look. He wanted to say that it was she who killed them, but he knew it was a useless thought. Yoonhae uses it against him, and he feels completely at the mermaid's mercy. At home, he yells at his sister, telling her not to fill the bathtub when he's there. The sister defends herself, saying it was for a science project, but he doesn't believe her. He shouts that if she had remembered what he said, she would have done it somewhere else. At school, a girl stops him, saying that he forgot his ID badge and will be punished for it. His friend gets startled and he wonders when he lost his school badge. He starts making a mental list, trying to understand what's happening to him. The protagonist thinks that he has to meet the mermaid every afternoon, and that she hates delays. He remembers that Yoonhae can only leave the water if he's nearby, which complicates everything. Suddenly, he gets startled by a noise. A classmate drops her water bottle on the floor and apologizes for the scare. She asks if anyone has paper towels, but the classroom is out and no one has any. The protagonist gets an idea and grabs a tissue to help the girl clean up. She thanks him, and he tells her to hurry up and clean the mess quickly. The girl thinks his attitude is rude and wonders what's gotten into him. His friends throw a note onto his desk, asking if something's wrong with him. Then Hugh turns to them, and they stare at him, trying to understand why he's acting like that. The friend answers that no, but it's obvious that something's wrong with him. He thinks about who he could tell, but knows no one would believe his story. For days he thinks about how to get rid of Yoonhae, but finds no solution. Finally, the day of the beach trip arrives, and the sea is already just ahead. He feels tense and concludes that this has become the most miserable day of his life. When they arrive at the inn, one of the girls complains about the smell and asks if there wasn't a better place. They decide to unpack their things and head straight to the beach to enjoy the day. But the protagonist says that he's not feeling well and will go later once he feels better. He watches his friends having fun at the beach while he stays alone in the room. He remembers Yoonhae telling him to go when no one is around. The mermaid reminds him that he has no choice and that he must obey her orders. The boy fears that she will suddenly appear while he's with his friends. He goes to the kitchen and drinks some water, still deep in thought about what to do. The boy wonders if he really needs Yoonhae in his life and makes a decision. He decides that he must find a way to make Yoonhae disappear for good. The group returns from the beach and the girl complains that she spent a fortune on her outfit for nothing. They find the protagonist and say that they brought sashimi for everyone to eat together. He offers to set the table, and the pink-haired girl helps him with the food. The friend complains that it took them forever to find a restaurant since there was nothing nearby. The protagonist is surprised and asks how they managed to buy the sashimi. The friend says there's nothing to do in the area, and they start eating. The girl offers him a cup, but the protagonist politely refuses the drink. His friends get annoyed and tell him to stop acting that way with them. One of them says that they came from far away and that he's not taking part in anything. Tired of the argument, he sighs and says that it's fine, agreeing to join them. Night falls and the group has fun on the porch, laughing and talking cheerfully. Still disheartened, our hero tries to blend in, but the memory resurfaces. The boy remembers his aunt's death and her image haunts him again. Back to reality, his friend asks if they already know which school they'll attend. A friend says that Jaejung is going to art school, and that the girls are too. The girls talk about their plans, and he says that he's thinking about a cooperative program. The girl jokes, saying that he still needs to study even in that program. He thinks that everyone has dreams and plans for the future, feeling a bit out of place. His friends insist that he should go to a better school since his grades are very good. Another friend covers his mouth, saying that Hee-sung's parents must be proud of him. The girl says that it's every parent's dream, and he just smiles, not knowing what to say. Tired of hiding it, he reveals to everyone that he has no parents, shocking the group. He explains that his parents passed away, and that's why he can't go to a better school. The protagonist decides to tell them everything that happened, and the friends listen in silence. He tells them about his father's death, the move to Seoul, and the recent death of his mother. Seeing their sadness, he asks why they look so sad and if he should stop. He also reveals about the old lady who used to help him and why he got rid of his phone. The boy wonders if he's drunk and why he's telling them all of that. He remembers Yoon-hae saying that he has no choice, and the fear returns to haunt him. Suddenly, he wakes up and wonders when he fell asleep in the room. Still in the middle of the night, he gets up, determined to put his plan into action. He knows he can't fight her and is afraid of what she would do if he exposed her. With a knife in his hand, he decides that he needs to end it all in the ocean. He goes to the beach and tells himself that everything will be fine in the end. The boy thinks that his life has been hard enough and that he deserves a bit of peace. But as he enters the water, he is surprised by his friend, who stops him from continuing. The friend confronts him, asking if he's serious about leaving so early. He accuses him of trying to kill himself, and the boy says that it's nothing like that. The knife falls into the water, and the friend asks how he can calm down in a situation like this. The protagonist yells for him to get out of the water, saying it's too dangerous there. Angrily, his friend says that he always chooses to suffer alone, but suddenly the mermaid appears. With a smile, she greets him and asks why he brought his friend along. The friend turns around and asks who the girl is, leaving the protagonist in panic. He wonders why she came out and fears that something terrible will happen to his friend. Frightened, the friend ends up falling. He is shocked when he sees the mermaid's tail, and the protagonist yells for him to get out of the water. The mermaid confronts him, but he says that he's Hye-sung's real friend. Tired of the argument, the protagonist shouts for them to stop fighting right now. He holds her and asks why she's doing that, feeling betrayed by her. The boy says that if she were truly his friend, she wouldn't put him in danger. He reveals that she and his friends are equally precious to him, without distinction. Yoon-hae touches his face and says that she doesn't like being treated like the others. The mermaid says that she wants him to realize that she's special and to treat her differently. He says that he'll try, but the mermaid responds that she doesn't believe his words. She accuses him of not wanting to try and says that's why he brought a knife with him. Suddenly, she shows the knife in her hand, leaving the boy in shock. Then she asks if he's afraid of her now too. He stammers, saying that he brought the knife to protect himself and that he would never hurt her. The mermaid says that it seems like he's protecting his friend, not the other way around, and that he only protected her back when they still lived on the island. The mermaid says that she doesn't like the situation or having his friend nearby. He throws himself into the water and begs her not to do anything, saying that it was a mistake. The boy pleads on his knees, begging her to please let his friend go. Yoon-hae says that he doesn't need his friend and that he's always been alone, even surrounded by people. She invites him to return to Mole Island and relive the happy times they once had. He accepts the offer and says that they can go, but the girl wants to talk about it after the friend leaves. The protagonist helps his friend get up and leads him out of the water. He tells his friend not to say anything and just go, and the mermaid watches everything from afar. The boy begs her to find happiness somewhere else, but she doesn't believe him. She accuses him of lying again, and he turns around, calling her name. Suddenly, his friend screams and says that something is pulling him down into the water. The protagonist tries to help him, but the friend shouts that something is pulling him hard. He tries to pull his friend up, but realizes that the mermaid won't let him go no matter what. Desperate, he screams for her to let go, saying that his friend has nothing to do with them. He realizes that he can't lose his friend and grabs a rock from the water. With all his strength, he hits the hand that's holding his friend, trying to free him. From under the water, she looks at him with that insane gaze, and decides to squeeze the boy's hand even harder. He screams in pain, and the two are finally released from the mermaid's grip. His friend sinks into the water, and the protagonist screams his name in despair. With tears in his eyes, he stares at the mermaid, feeling betrayed and powerless. She reveals that she sent his friend to the bottom of the ocean, but that he's not dead yet. The mermaid says that she will bring him back if he says what she wants to hear from him. He stammers, saying that he'll go to the island with her, but that's not what she wants. The boy tries to apologize for hurting her, but she interrupts him again. He says that she's the most important person to him, but she denies it once more. The mermaid tells him to try again and drowns him until he says the right answer. She hugs him and tells him to keep trying until he says what she wants to hear. The scene shifts to the police station, and the protagonist's uncle leaves him alone to be interrogated. The detective calls him and takes him to a room to be questioned about the case. The detective reminds him that it's illegal for a minor to stay at a lodging without a guardian. He starts telling what happened, saying that he woke up early to go to the beach. But as he relives the scene, he has a panic attack and begins to feel suffocated. The image of his friend drowning comes to his mind, and he panics in the room. He knocks over the table and the detective gets startled, asking what's wrong with him. The boy says that he can't remember and that he can't continue with the testimony. The scene changes and the mother of one of his friends complains that this will ruin her son's college entrance exams. She tries to blame Haishong, saying that he hangs out with bad influences and has no parents. The mother hits her son and blames him for going to the beach without her permission. The detective tries to calm her down, saying that whatever she says won't affect the investigation. He asks the friend what the relationship between Haishong and the missing boy was like. The friend says that on the night of the incident, the missing boy became very sentimental. He assures that his friend would never hurt anyone, and that he's sure of it. The detective asks if he ever crossed the line when talking about Haishong's family. The officer asks if they were drinking, and the boy is shocked by the question. With no evidence, the detectives conclude that it was an accidental drowning caused by alcohol. A week later, he receives a visit from his friend and asks how he found his address. The friend reveals that the missing boy's parents have given up the search and are holding the funeral. He asks if he can go, and the friend encourages him, saying that he should. The friend shakes him, saying that if he keeps running away, no one will believe in his innocence. He agrees to meet him the next day, and the friend cries, relieved by his decision. At the funeral, he finds his friend, who calls him inside to pay his respects. The boy bows in respect, and the deceased family watches him in silence. He approaches the parents, and the friend introduces him, saying that Haishong is there. The protagonist bows in respect, and the boy's mother stares at him with sadness. The boy's father greets him and asks him to say goodbye to his son one last time. He kneels before the altar, and the father tells the woman not to say anything to the boy. In silence, he lights an incense stick and sits to pay his last respects. He remembers the scene of his friend drowning and feels that he's the one to blame. He wishes he were insane and that it was all just in his head. In a flashback, the students get ready to take the class graduation photo. His friend asks the protagonist what he thinks of his look, but he doesn't even look. He laughs, saying that he feels strange with the top button of his shirt closed. The photographer asks him to turn slightly and takes the picture at the perfect moment, and it was exactly that photo taken that day that was displayed at his funeral. Hai just wanted to die, feeling guilty for what had happened. He bows in respect, and the boy's mother approaches with a hesitant expression. She asks desperately if he didn't hurt her son and if it was really just an accident. The father tries to restrain her, but the woman clings to the protagonist, begging for the truth. She recalls how the two were close, and how he used to have dinner at their house. The father reprimands her and apologizes to the guests for the scene she's making. The deceased sister calls the protagonist and his friend to talk outside. She takes them to a more private room and begins speaking to both of them. The girl says that the family isn't doing well and that everything happened so suddenly. With tears in her eyes, she says that she still can't believe what happened to her brother. She hugs him hesitantly and tries to get closer to offer some comfort. The girl says that she's sure it was an accident because he was her brother's best friend. That's why they will ask the police to stop the investigation and that she believes in him. She remembers how they always supported each other, but the girl asks our hero never to come back there again. He should stay for a while and then leave quietly without anyone seeing him. She says goodbye, saying that she hopes never to see him again and that it would be better for her. His other friend approaches and asks if Hai is okay, but the protagonist interrupts and asks if it's starting to rain. With that, he turns and says that he's already leaving. He knows that with water nearby, he must leave as quickly as possible. He runs out into the rain, leaving his friend behind, confused by his reaction. He remembers Yoon Hai and how she threatened him, saying that she wouldn't see him for a while. The mermaid tells him to call her again when he figures out what he did wrong to her. Alone in the rain, he lifts his head and looks at the sky, feeling completely lost. He realizes that he can't escape her, no matter where he goes in the world. The boy blames himself for his friend's death and fears that the mermaid will kill someone else. When he gets home, his sister sees him soaking wet and asks if he's okay. He tells the girl to leave the house for 3 hours, leaving her confused by the request. The girl obeys, and he goes to the bathroom, filling the bathtub to call her. He calls for Yoon Hae and reaches out his hand to her with a determined look. The mermaid appears and he pulls her close, holding her hand tightly. The protagonist kisses her and looks at her with a smile on his lips, surprising the mermaid. He says that he missed her and realized that she is all he has. The boy asks her to take him back to the island, and she pulls him into the water. He thinks that he doesn't deserve to live, and apologizes to everyone he left behind. The protagonist says that he needs to do this to protect his friends and his family. He and Yoon Hae are in the island cave, and he decides that he must do it. The boy comments that the place hasn't changed at all, and that it's still peaceful and beautiful. He says that he should have come earlier, so they could talk more openly. The boy thanks her for bringing him back to his happy childhood. He hugs her and asks her to take him back home so he can pack his things. Back at the apartment, his sister arrives and calls for him, worried about his disappearance. The girl finds a letter and reads it, discovering that he will be gone for a month. She gets confused by the letter and wonders what happened to her brother. On the island, he says that he always wanted to see her house, and she seems surprised. The mermaid says that she doesn't remember much about her family and only remembers having fun with him, but he knows that it's a lie and remembers the abuse he suffered in his childhood. The protagonist thinks that the longing he feels makes him remember every detail of his family. He wonders what would happen if he lured her outside and drained the water. The boy thinks that the beach is only 3 minutes away and that it wouldn't be hard to get rid of her, but he knows that she would kill him first and that he can't defeat her by force. A month passes and he remains on the island, living a quiet life with the mermaid. He spends his days swimming and talking with her, far from all his problems. He wished he could let the water fill his lungs, but she wouldn't let him. He wanted to drown, but Yoonhae would never allow him to die. At night, they went back home and she stayed with him until he fell asleep. After a month, he started to feel happy by her side again, but she seemed resentful, and he said that she would never understand what he went through. He felt sorry for her and imagined young Yoonhae waiting for him all alone. The boy hugs her and apologizes for leaving her alone for so long. She says that she was sad that he changed and that his friends hurt him. The mermaid says that she hated seeing him suffer because he meant the world to her. He wonders if she would have stayed the same if he hadn't left. The protagonist realizes that he ruined everything with his greed and selfishness, and hugs her. Without her, he would have never realized what was wrong with himself. Despite his hopeless situation, he feels calm beside her. She notices that he's sick and asks if he feels dizzy. The mermaid asks if he didn't bring enough food and if he's starving. He explains that he can't stand food anymore since he spends most of the day in the water. Yoonhae says that they should go back to Seoul, leaving the protagonist surprised by her decision. She reminds him that his vacation is almost over and that he needs to return to school. He asks if he can go back and is surprised that she doesn't hate him for being in Seoul. The mermaid says that she would hate it more if he got sick and takes him out of the water. She hugs him and thanks him for everything he's done for her lately. The boy is surprised by her kindness and wonders if he's felt this before. Back home, he finds his sister who hugs him, worried about his disappearance. She asks where he's been, and the boy tells her not to wake him up because he wants to sleep. The sister cries and he sleeps for days as if dead, finally at peace. 2 days before the end of vacation, he talks with the mermaid in the bathroom. She says that she wants to see the outside world and he agrees, a bit uneasy. The boy says that they've spent too much time in Seoul and that he wants to try something different. The two go out in the rain, and he asks if she wants the umbrella, but she refuses. He thinks that school starts the day after tomorrow, but that he's no longer interested in going. He asks if he should drop out of school to live with her on the island, leaving her surprised. The mermaid asks why, and he says that it's what she wanted, for them to live alone forever. She says that it's a great idea, but that he shouldn't decide now, only discuss it. Suddenly, the pink-haired girl appears and calls for him, interrupting the conversation. She asks what he's doing there in the rain, leaving him uneasy. He diverts the subject, saying that he dropped something and that he's already leaving that place. The girl says that everyone has been wondering how he's doing and that she was going to visit him at school. She gets closer and says that everyone is worried, but he says that he needs to go. The girl stops him and reveals that she's been going to therapy and that it's been helping a lot. She says that the therapist told her it's better to share sadness with those who went through the same thing. The girl says that they've been meeting to comfort one another, and he stops. She invites him to join them, but the image of the mermaid appears beside her. He gets irritated and asks if she really thinks they went through the same thing. The boy laughs and says that she's so stupid she doesn't even know when to shut up. With a sinister smile, he stares at her and the girl can't understand his reaction. He confronts her, saying that she was asleep when everything happened and doesn't know anything. The boy says that he was studying, but that she used the clothes as an excuse to take him to the beach. He accuses her of ruining his vacation and bragging about having a therapist for him. The girl apologizes and he stares at her, waiting for an answer to his question. With tears in her eyes, she admits that she crossed the line and apologizes again. She turns around and leaves, while the protagonist keeps watching her. The mermaid appears in a puddle of water and says that the girl must be very hurt. She says she's happy to see how much he cares about her and that she can wait. Yoonhae tells him to keep going to school and that she can wait for him. She reminds him that school starts tomorrow and asks if he's excited to go back. Suddenly the doorbell rings and he gets startled, not knowing who it could be. He wonders if it's his uncle since his sister isn't home at that moment. The boy tells the mermaid to wait and goes to the door, feeling a bit anxious. When he opens it, he comes face to face with his friend, who says that they need to talk. He asks how the friend figured out the password, but the friend says they should just talk. He sighs and says that the friend needs to leave because he doesn't want to talk anymore. The friend says that it's not too late to apologize and that everything can go back to normal. He says he can't just let him stay there suffering alone. The protagonist says that the friend means nothing to him, leaving him speechless. The friend is shocked, and the protagonist throws him out, telling him to leave him alone. He walks away and asks if Haisheng really meant what he said, but he doesn't answer. Before leaving, he turns around and says that he has something important to tell him. He reveals that he didn't tell the police about their fight because he trusted him, but now he regrets it and wonders what really happened that day. With a mocking smile, the protagonist asks why he didn't tell the truth. The friend gets angry and leaves while the protagonist stumbles backward. He enters the bathroom and asks if the mermaid heard everything, and she says that he's cruel. The friend walks down the stairs, still shocked by the protagonist's behavior during their argument. He wonders if something happened between them but tries to push the thought away. Suddenly he finds Haisheng's sister sitting on the stairs. The girl asks if he talked to her brother, and he looks at her with sadness. He apologizes and says that there's nothing he can do to help now. The sister asks if that's really true, and if he can't help her brother at all. The friend asks if she has a phone and saves his number so she can call if she needs anything. He leaves, and the girl looks at her phone, worried about her brother and her friend. School starts again, and the protagonist walks into the classroom feeling out of place. Everyone stares at him because they know what happened at the beach. The boy sits at his desk, and his friend approaches, placing a hand on his shoulder. He invites him to have lunch and says that he'll pay, trying to reconnect, but the protagonist slaps his hand away and leaves the room without saying a word. He finds the girls in the hallway and walks past them without even greeting them. The friend tells Solby not to talk to him anymore and says she can't believe he ignored her. The teacher walks into the classroom and tells everyone to sit down to begin roll call. He gets confused and calls the name of the deceased friend, making the atmosphere heavy. After that day, everyone at school completely stopped talking to the protagonist. 2 weeks later, he asks his sister to leave the house for a while again. She refuses and asks why she has to leave every time he wants to be alone. The girl says that he's been acting strange since the funeral and that she's scared of him. He pushes her out of the house, ignoring her protests and crying. The boy says that nothing is wrong and tells her to come back in 4 hours. Outside, she tries to convince herself that she needs to give him some space. She decides to stop crying and thinks that he must be exhausted from taking care of her. The girl goes to a cafe and the employees complain that she only uses the bathroom. One of them confronts her and asks why she's using the restroom without buying anything. The employee says that only paying customers can use the store's restroom. The customers recognize the girl and wonder why she's in trouble there. The employee asks if she doesn't have a home, and the other customers mock her. Suddenly, a voice calls her and she turns around, surprised by who she sees. The pink-haired girl and her brother's friend invite her to sit with them. Solbai confronts the employee and invites her for a private talk downstairs. They take her to the table and explain that they were talking about how to help Haisong. The little girl starts crying, and they comfort her, saying that everything will be okay. One of the friends asks what made Haisong act so strange all of a sudden. The sister says that he used to be nice but became mean, and doesn't let her use the bathroom. The friend realizes that he's not just picking on Solbai, and that his personality has changed. She says that she thinks it's because of the bathtub, and that he isn't sick. The girl says that he forbids her from emptying the tub and leaves notes with warnings. They get scared and wonder if he has some kind of mental issue or obsession. The sister is shocked and asks what accident they're talking about, not knowing anything. One of the girls jokes that he might have joined a cult, scaring the younger girl. She says that she wants to find out the truth and that she's relieved they haven't given up. The friend says that they've thought about it a lot and that there must be a reason for his change. He promises that they'll do their best and that the problem is whether he wants to come back. Solbai returns and brings a bunch of sweets for the protagonist's sister to eat. She explains that the employees sent the sweets as an apology to her. The friend jokes, asking for one, but Solbai says they're all for Haibin. The little girl eats happily, and everyone watches her with a smile on their faces. The friend thinks that Haibin Ses has a sister who cares about him and wonders why he acts that way. He suggests a dangerous plan, and everyone at the table agrees to try it. At school, the girls greet him and he's surprised by their attitude. The friend also greets him, and he wonders why everyone is talking to him. The teacher announces that summer is over and that some students are getting too relaxed. He calls him to the teacher's office, and the protagonist agrees, not understanding why. In the office, the teacher asks what's going on and says that he's not usually like this. He accuses him of not focusing and asks if it's because of the accident. The boy bows and apologizes, saying that it won't happen again. But the teacher yells, ordering him to come back, saying that he's not finished talking. He insults him, saying that he has no manners because he has no parents to teach him. Angry, Furia turns back and asks the teacher to repeat what he just said, leaving him scared. He says that the boy needs to try harder instead of showing his flaws. The teacher says that he also lost his father but never showed his weakness. The protagonist wonders why the teacher is so angry with him today. The man says that he needs to forget his friend's death and move on with his life. He remembers hearing something similar before but didn't feel angry at the time. The boy thinks that maybe it was because he had friends by his side, but that wasn't it. He remembers Yoon Hai and how she said that no one could understand them. With a smile, he realizes that the mermaid was right and that no one understands him. The teacher says that he's basically his guardian and that he can't talk back like that. The protagonist asks why he compares them when their lives are completely different. He accuses him of wanting to feel good by scolding a student who's struggling. The teacher trembles with anger and the protagonist says that he wishes he'd lost his father at 32. Furious, the teacher hits him with a folder, striking him right on the head. The man accuses him of being rude and goes after him, forcing another teacher to intervene. He says that he was just trying to help, but the protagonist says that's just his opinion. The teacher threatens him with his school record, but the boy doesn't care anymore. The teacher yells at him to drop out of school and threatens him, but he leaves without looking back. Back in the bathroom, he says that he went through something similar, and the mermaid comforts him. She says that she just wanted to live in peace but that others made her feel miserable. The protagonist agrees and says that he felt exactly like that on that day at school. She hugs him and he feels much better, finding comfort in her arms. He wonders why she can't stay with him forever, and the mermaid apologizes. The boy gets confused and asks what she's apologizing for now. She says that she can't comfort him and hates herself for not having that power, and she even says that maybe the best thing would be to disappear from his life for good. The protagonist asks why now, when he finally chose her and got used to her. He gets desperate and begs her not to say that, because she's the only one who understands him. Meanwhile, a cell phone in the bathroom is recording everything. In physical education class, the teacher tells everyone to find a partner to practice with. The friend calls him, but another says that he'll partner with Hai Song. He says that the protagonist isn't participating anymore, but that he should pair up with Jong Hwan. The friend asks him to be his partner, but he turns away, ignoring the invitation. He leaves the court, and the friend follows, asking where he's going. The protagonist says that he understands why they're trying to talk to him, but he says that he can't take it anymore and doesn't want their help anymore. The friend says that he was only looking for a partner and that he has other friends. He wonders if the change in attitude is because of Yoon Hwan, and the friend gets startled. Hai's sister had recorded everything and took it to the friends so they could hear what happened in the bathroom. The group wonders if they should tell his sister about what they heard in the recording, since she's still too young to understand. Solby asks who Yoon Hwan is and if there's anyone by that name at school. They find it strange that the conversation happened in the bathroom and wonder if they were smoking. The pink-haired girl wonders why he distances himself if he seems fine with Yoon Hwan. A friend suggests that they're dating and that she's the one controlling the relationship. The friend comments that her way of speaking is strange and that she changes her tone of voice. He says that she talks as if she isn't even human. The friend scolds him, and he grows thoughtful, trying to understand what's happening. Back to the present, the protagonist trembles and asks how the friend knows about Yoon Hwan. Furious, he grabs him by the collar and yells, demanding to know how he found out. The friend says that he can't breathe and he thinks that he was sacrificing himself. He thought he was protecting everyone from something terrifying, but he was wrong. The boy realizes that now he fears his friends more than the mermaid herself. He lets go of the friend, who coughs, and the protagonist looks around, worried. The boy fears that Yoon Hwan heard the conversation and doesn't know what to do. He runs away, leaving his friend behind, who calls after him, confused. In the classroom, the teacher asks who's missing, and everyone notices his absence. The friend says they haven't seen him since gym class, and the teacher gets irritated. At the end of the day, they discover that Hwan Sung never returned to school and start to worry. The girl says it was a mistake to bring up Yoon Hwan, and that the timing was terrible. The friend decides to take Hwan Sung's things to his house and talk to him later. On the way, he calls the boy's sister and asks if Hwan Sung is home. He asks if Hwan has seen her brother, and she answers, making him even more worried. On the other end of the line, the protagonist tells him never to call Hwan Hebben again. He says that he heard everything, and knows that they used his sister to record him. The boy hangs up on the friend and blocks his number so he won't receive calls anymore. He confiscates his sister's phone and tells her not to call his friends again. The scene shifts, and the friend is in art class but can't focus. He gets a call from Hai Seong's sister, but it's actually him on the line. They meet at the park so he can return the backpack that was left at school. He hands over the backpack and uniform, and the protagonist says that he came to answer one last time. His friend asks if he abandoned them because Yoon Hai is obsessed with him, but in response he says no, that he's the one obsessed with her. The friend apologizes for recording the conversation but says that she's not good for him. He says that Yoon Hai is a childhood friend and that he's known her since he was 10. The boy says that he's the only one she has and that they mean nothing to him. The friend asks if he remembers what Soonbin said before the accident. He reminds him that the friend asked him not to suffer alone and to talk with them. The friend says that many people care about him and that he doesn't need her, but the protagonist replies that she's the one who helped him when he was in trouble. He says that all of that is in the past and that it doesn't matter anymore. With a sinister smile, he says that the friend isn't here anymore and that there's no point in talking about him. The friend gets angry and punches him in the face, making him fall to the ground. Back in the bathroom, he says that someone knows about her but that he never told anyone. The mermaid says that she knows and that she heard everything that happened in their conversation. He realizes that she was watching and feels even more trapped in the situation. The boy says that she must be upset and that his friend is weird and scary. She questions him and asks why he ran away if he already knew his friend would be a problem. He apologizes and says that he was so scared he wasn't thinking straight. The mermaid asks if he doesn't care if the friend disappears and he stares at her. She reminds him that she said anyone who bothers him needs to disappear. The protagonist gets scared and asks if she's saying that she's going to kill the friend. The mermaid asks what he thinks and what he would do to make him disappear. In shock, he asks if she means that she's going to kill him. Smiling, she says that it's actually a good idea and asks his opinion on what they could do. Back to the moment of the fight, Hai's friend asks how he could say those things. Still throwing punches, he says he can't believe he ever had someone like him as a friend. He reminds him how Soonbin cared about him and how he was a good friend. In a flashback, the friend says that he still wants to be there for him if he ever needs it. He says the problem is that Hai Seong keeps suffering alone, and that makes him nervous. The friend asks him to lean on him, or at least on the other friends who are there. He agrees and thanks him for the support, feeling a bit better after the conversation. After cleaning everything up, one of the girls says she cried so much that she needs to hug her mom. The friend is surprised that he told them everything and wonders how he became so amazing. He says that Hae-sung isn't okay and that their personalities are complete opposites. The friend asks the others to be there for him if something ever happens in the future. He says he didn't want to think that way and feels guilty for ever doubting him. The protagonist wishes it had been him who died instead of the friend who's gone. The people around separate the fight, and the friend stares at him with anger and disgust. He says he's going to ignore him and threatens him, telling him not to talk to any of them again. The protagonist is left alone, and the people nearby ask if he's okay. He doesn't remember much, but he thinks the mermaid got furious about his injuries. The boy was completely alone until graduation, with no friends to talk to. The teacher jokes, saying that the students must be happy to never see him again. He tells the students to leave because he needs to lock the classroom door. The protagonist finds a rose on his desk and is surprised by the gift. The teacher says that's enough and that their parents must be waiting outside. He turns to leave, and the teacher starts the countdown for the photo. The boy walks out of the classroom and leaves the flower behind, not caring about the gift. He hears the voice of his friend calling him to play soccer, just like old times. The protagonist walks down the empty hallway, ignoring the call of the friend who's gone. He moves forward alone, carrying the weight of his choices and his losses. He takes a train and a boat, returning to his hometown, Mole Island. He feels a bit embarrassed, but happy to be back in the place he loves. The mermaid appears in the water and waves at him with a gentle smile. He waves back and the two reunite on the island, just like the old days. In the cave, she says that she has something to show him. She asks him to close his eyes, and he asks what it is, curious about the surprise. After a moment, she tells him to open his eyes, and he sees the yellow submarine. The young man remembers that toy he left behind when he left the island. He moves toward the toy to hold it, but the mermaid doesn't let him. She hugs him and says that it's her #1 treasure and that now it belongs to her. He smiles and agrees, saying that the toy is hers forever as a gift. The mermaid says that the submarine doesn't move anymore and that maybe it's broken. He teaches her how to wind it up and the toy starts moving in the water again. The boy is happy and laughs, feeling peaceful and content by her side. But suddenly he notices something strange on her tail and asks what happened, leaving her surprised. That's it for today, guys. I've summarized all the available chapters, but if you want the continuation, comment Mermaid Stalker, and I'll bring more as soon as it's released. Don't forget to leave a like, it really helps our videos reach more people. See you next time.